a former CASA youth. From my experience in foster care, I saw firsthand how CASA volunteers are trained to advocate for children like myself. For the first time, I was able to experience what love, support, and consistency look like from individuals who did not know me. I was able to experience the true meaning of additional supports in a village larger than myself. I often say I am a forever CASA kid because I believe that in truth. Some of the images I have on the screen is young Tawanna as the powerhouse advocate that she is. So these images were actually captured at a national CASA GAL event. I want to say in Seattle, Washington. I believe it was in 2022, if not 2023, where I was awarded the Ackerman Scholarship, as well as I participated in a number of different panel discussions on authentically engaging young people with lived experience and what that looks like. Some things that I wanted to highlight that my CASA volunteers did, as I do know that there's some of you on this call who recently became CASA volunteers, as well as some of you who have been serving for some time now. So, some things that my CASAs did that stuck out to me were they asked me, what did I want to be when I grew up? I was never asked that question before. So, I remember the first time being asked, I was 12 years old, and I was so confused because I had never seen my life beyond like the different traumas and the different things that I was experiencing in that moment. So for somebody to ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? It allowed me to become that visionary. It allowed me to have dreams that I had never been able to hone in on previously before. They informed and invited me into spaces where I could be an advocate for myself. So, like I said, sometimes when you're dealing with young people that are in the foster care system, we are already pre-labeled. We're labeled as a foster youth. There's so many different assumptions about us. That kid is rude. That kid is aggressive. That kid is disrespectful. That kid doesn't know how to talk to people. However, we're just trying to find an outlet in the things that we were taught or the ways that in which that we thought were okay because of our circumstances. So when I was in a position to have somebody not only sit down with me and say, hey, listen, like this is, I understand this is what you're going through. And let's try to find outlets, right? What makes you happy? What's your favorite color? What are some things that you see for yourself in the future? It kind of gave me like a roadmap outside of like my current circumstances, which put me in a position to want more for myself and to see more for myself. So they remembered small details about me, which I thought was very important because I went through a lot of different social workers. And a lot of the times, some people couldn't even pronounce my name correctly. And this is somebody who's going to court to advocate for what my life looks like and what happens next. So that's something that I always remember. I remember telling Bob, one of my CASA volunteers, he asked what was my favorite color. And at the time, my favorite color was baby blue. And the next time that he came to visit me, he had a baby blue notebook. And it was something so small, but it left a lasting impact because he remembered that. And I didn't have to tell him. They remembered things such as my favorite song, my favorite teachers. So that was something that I definitely took away from that. They congratulated me on my all of the small wins. So at sometimes moving from school to school, having to meet new people and having to meet with social workers and go to doctor's appointments and talk to judges and all the things, something that like normal kids are not doing. My friends were able to go to track after school. I couldn't go to track practice after school because I had to meet with my social workers. So something so small as you finish like your first week of school at this new school and you did great. That was something that's so small that oftentimes we can think are so simple, but for like a young person like myself, that left a lasting impact. They talk to me and not at me. I think this is a very important thing. Oftentimes, um, people from the state could be very intimidating. I always thought it was my fault that I was in foster care, and nobody ever broke it down to me that, hey, you're here not because of any fault of your own, but because of the circumstances and the things that happened from the people that were supposed to care for you. So being able to meet us where we are and understand that we're just trying to navigate this space the best that we know how. And what I've realized in growing through the system and doing my own learning is that a lot of the times people find it hard of like, right, how do I connect with the youth that is 16, or how do I connect with a youth that is 5? I entered care with 4 of my siblings, so there was 5 of us. We were various different age groups, and what I always thought was so beautiful is that my CASA volunteers were able to meet all 5 of us where we were. So whether that was my older brother and connecting with him on like life set opportunities of what he wanted next for his life planning goals, whether that was meeting with me or whether it was meeting my 6-year-old sister and knowing that their way of communication looks a lot different. Like you could give my 6-year-old little sister a coloring book and she'll tell you all the things she needs to tell you or express her way in that manner. I was a person who was more talkative, but you may have a young person that doesn't really like to speak, but they love poetry. They love drawing. Like, so you have to be able to be flexible and understand that no situation, story, or kid is the same. All 5 of us experience the same things, but how we internalize those things or even how we deal with those things are very different. And that's normal because we're different people. My CASA volunteers allowed me to dream and they believed in my aspirations, which was a very big thing for me. They acknowledged me as a person and not a caseload. I often tell people I am Tawanna Brown first. I absolutely hate the label when people say Tawanna Brown, former foster youth. I'm Tawanna Brown, the person who has navigated the system and triumphed in many different ways, right? There's so much to my story. I am who I am today because of what I've been able to do with that, not in spite of it, but from a sense of empowerment. So that's something to also note. CASA volunteers also continue showing up and asking questions and actively listening, which was something that was very important to me. So why advocacy matters. So these some of these images here, this is actually me at the White House roundtable, and this is my nameplate that I got. I started collecting these after every event or engagement because it just reminded me that I am making a difference. I am touching one person at a time and in spaces that I could have only dreamed of. Um, Advocacy is more than just speaking up. It's about creating change, not only for yourself, but for others who may have not had the chance to be heard. My journey has shown me that advocacy is powerful because every youth voice matters. For me, CASA was the first organization that saw me as someone capable and deserving of having a voice. Their belief in me became the stepping stone into my advocacy journey, showing me that my experiences matter and could fuel change. My journey has shown me that advocacy is powerful because each conversation could plant a seed that grows into something larger. It transforms pain into purpose. What begins as a way of surviving or healing can become a lifelong mission to empower others, and that's what happened to me. CASA's role is crucial and was crucial in my life because they were the first people to believe in me and to see something more and bigger than me than I could at the moment. CASA gave me the confidence and the support to step into spaces where not only the youth voices matter, but a voice in general matter. They inspired me to use my lived experience to actually create real impact and change. I think at its core, advocacy matters because it ensures that lived experience is not just a story, but a force that shapes policies, builds community, and makes systems more just and humane. It brings back humanity and dignity to us young people who are often dehumanized and blamed for the situations and the things that we go through. At its core, advocacy matters because it ensures that lived experience is not just a story, but a force that continues to drive these different system changes. So why CASA? Here's myself and Marla again. Marla is actually still a part of my life. I have aged out of the system over a year and a half ago. However, she has made it a point to continue to show up. That's her at my high school graduation in the top and bottom corner. And then in the middle is her moving me into college in 2021. So CASA's role and impact has and forever will play a huge part in my life. CASA volunteers They advocate for children in the courts, but also within communities, ensuring that children are seen as individuals and not just cases. CASA volunteers are consistent, caring adults. They inspire, they show hope, and they shape futures. CASA volunteers play a crucial role in the lives of children in foster care. And from my own experience, they were more than just advocates in the courtroom. They were consistent, they were caring, and they seen me as an individual with potential and somebody that was worthy. They advocated they advocate to ensure that children's voices are heard and that they are in the best interest of those represented. CASA volunteers can be lifelong mentors. My volunteer Marla not only supported me through foster care, but also helped me move into college, brought me all my LSAT prep books that I needed as a gift, and continues to show up, showing long-term investment. CASA's volunteers make a child's life, and it makes a huge difference in a child's life. I often say, as someone who is dealing with young people or just dealing with people in general, always remember your why. Why were you called to this work? Why were you called or led to do this? And in times that it does get overwhelming and it does get challenging and it does get hard, try to hone into that, because you could be that one adult that's saving a young person's life. You could be the one person that's pouring into them when everything else is falling apart. You could be the one person that restores their hope for the future. And that's what happened to me. And honestly, I give a lot of credit to CASA for really helping shape who I am today and still playing a big part of the different things that I've been able to do, and also just continuing to reach out or show up years later. CASA volunteers help children recognize their potential and guide them towards opportunities they might not have ever imagined. Key takeaway: CASAs don't just support children in the moment, they equipped us to thrive long after our cases close, becoming lifelong mentors and vessels of guidance for youth and care. And a lot of the times, in a lot of the shared spaces that I'm in with some of my peers and other people who've had experience with the child welfare system, I've encountered people who don't stay in contact with their CASA workers, but they always talk about the lasting impact that their CASA volunteer has left. So again, it's always remembering your why and not knowing the child's life that you could be saving and the impact that you could be making on their life. So that is a little bit about me and CASA's role in my life thus far. I didn't want to focus so much on my deep traumas, but more so just to allow you all to know that your roles are very important and you are changing someone's lives every day. And even if it's not said, you never know the difference that you're making. And I truly appreciate and thank you for your time. And something that I want to leave you all with is a youthful voice is powerful, but it needs to be heard. So, how can you consistently support youth? How can you amplify their voices? And how can you continue to support CASA's mission? And these are some questions and some think pieces that you could carry along in your work. Did I amplify one of my young people's voices today? Did I support them the best way that I can? Did I listen to them? Did I hear them? Did I make them feel seen and heard?
Gale. I'm not sharing my screen, but I just wanted to say, wow, wow, Tawanna, your presentation was just amazing and so moving, and I really I am so glad that I took the time to log on today. And I love what you said. Always remember your why. Why were you called to do this work? I think that's just really important. And I also just wanted to say I'm an attorney, and if you ever need any help with those law school applications, I'm around. And Fordham University, go Fordham Law. I'll pass along my email to you. I'm sure you've had lots of other folks make that offer as well, but I'd be pleased to be an ear to listen or to help out, any way I can with reading essays or anything like that. But thank you for sharing that. It it was really amazing, and I'm a new CASA volunteer. So I was listening very carefully and taking notes with your suggestions, and I'm going to be using them with my two kiddos that I'm recently working with. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And be sure to leave your email in the chat. I'll definitely connect with you.
Thank you, Catherine. I know we have at least one other lawyer by profession who's semi-retired, CASA volunteer Warren Holcomb, and we have at least one soon-to-be lawyer in Victoria Diaz Torres, who's in the middle of law school. But you don't need to have such a connection to speak up. So anyone, please add any comments or questions.
Hi, I'm also another lawyer, and I will drop my info in the chat for you. That was an amazing presentation. I guess what I would want to hear from you, since you went through the CASA program as an older child and a teen, is there anything that wasn't helpful, or that you would say to a CASA, don't do this because this was annoying, or any advice like that you have for us?
I will say some things that as a teenager that I didn't find as helpful as it might have been for like my younger siblings. Where in New Jersey and Essex County, some of the local programs that they would have would be like, and I'm sure some of your local programs are the same. It's like an opportunity for young people to sit through different workshops, and then there might be like at the time there was like a lot of different, like, I guess you would say like fair kind of games and stuff like that, but they were tailored more specifically. This specific event was tailored more towards younger youth. Sometimes I think like what local CASA programs, they're trying to host something that kind of tailors to like ages maybe like 7 to 14, or like 13 to 18, but it doesn't have a different variety of interests, I would say. So sometimes I just felt like, oh, I'm sitting here with my younger siblings, but I wish there was something else that was out there for me. So I would say like really talking to your youth about some of the local programs that you have going on. Sometimes your youth just may be reluctant, like, no, I don't want to go to that, and they might actually need it. But that's one thing I would say. I would say one thing that I kind of felt like was annoying after a while was the updates from like my CASA volunteers, like very like much in touch with like my guidance counselors, my teachers, and stuff like that. But as I was like going through middle school, I was like, okay, I don't want to have to sit through like almost like these weekly reports of like, how I'm doing in school and stuff like that. But that could just be like teen in me, because those are things that are useful. But I would say the biggest thing in navigating that space is honestly talking to your youth, because everybody is different. I'm someone that I love the college readiness stuff, but I have a sibling that absolutely like hated any like life set type of planning. So
That's helpful. And then as an older teen, were there things that were particularly helpful to you, that the advocates helped you with?
yes. So I would say being able to voice that I was very, very interested from a young age. I was interested in law and the legal profession. So I made it a point to tell my law guardian and my CASA volunteers that I wanted to not only know what was going on in the courtrooms, like the ins and outs, I wanted to be invited in that space. So I very vividly remember my Judge Rich Choosing, he's amazing. He invited me to come and scope out the entire like courtroom setting, and he invited myself and my siblings to kind of break the ice, right? Because as a young person, you hear you have to go to court, you think that you're at fault, that you're scared. And I think sometimes that's what happens when we talk about the legal systems or child welfare systems. There's not enough breaking barriers there. to get us to understand like the purpose of all of this. This is supposed to help you in the long run. So I remember like our CASA volunteers taking us to go and see the court room, and then I remember the judge like showing me his chambers and stuff, and then I felt comfortable enough to testify. That led me to say, okay, this is a safe space. I definitely want to talk in court. So that was something that definitely helped me. And then from there, anything that they saw or came across, like for example, the youth council, it was because they remembered different things that I said I was interested in. So they would just send it to me, and they would like remind me like, hey, the application is due Friday. Do you need help with your application? What do you need? One of my younger siblings was interested in like different like dance things. So they would find like local things going on in the community where it's like, are you interested in going to this? So like instead of meeting us at the house, they might take her to go experience like a 30-minute hip hop dance class or something, for example. So just figuring out a way that you could get creative. Sometimes it doesn't have to look like the conventional, we're coming to meet with you today, we're going to sit in the living room on the couch. Like they might want to go to the park, and like, so it's just like being flexible. I always say be flexible as much as possible.
Other observations, questions? Just read this comment.
I'm reading the chat. Thank you guys so much. You wouldn't believe me if I said I'm so nervous. I'm literally here like this.
You'd never know it. Again, amazing. You're so impressive, and I know you're going to do great things. Do you have a social media presence that we could follow you and keep on top of what you're doing?
I am on LinkedIn, and hoping to expand. I've had a few people tell me like you need to like post more and stuff. So I am like hoping to expand that. But I will go ahead and drop my LinkedIn in the chat actually pretty well.
And Tawanna and I are connected on LinkedIn, and I believe, Tawanna, you're also following the Connecticut CASA on LinkedIn, yes?
Yes.
And I don't think this has been mentioned earlier. You're also a proud member of the Delta sorority, which is a, really important network all over the country, and including in Connecticut, both the active campus chapters and the alum chapters.
Yes, I am.
So, any final questions or comments before we bid Tawanna good night?
I just want to say have fun in law school. I think you'll enjoy it.
Thank you.
And I also want to make a pitch that tonight is a preview. Tawanna will be back with us at Connecticut CASA a week from tonight with Judge Erica Tyndall discussing family violence and child welfare during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So please, as many of you as possible, join us a week from tonight, and encourage others who may be interested to tune in. And we will be posting the recording of tonight's session at some point in the days ahead on our YouTube channel. And for Tawanna's social media and for our social media, we also may do some somewhat shorter clips of this entire recording so that it can be a bit more accessible to folks.
Yeah, I guess I have a question. And I haven't had a case yet, so I'm very, very brand new. But as a foster child, is there a certain thing with all the people that you've talked to and other foster children that is something that foster children need the most help with? Whether like it is, I know each person is different, each case is different, but have you heard any consistency, like the thing really is the one that you wish somebody could have helped you earlier with?
I would say some things that I tend to see kind of overlap when it comes to like the teenagers specifically is that transitional phase. Like to adulthood and what that looks like, a lot of us are scared of aging out and what that looks like if there's no permanency planning set in place. And then even if there is, I think sometimes there is a disconnect between what happens after my case closed, right? So I think a lot of the teenagers, oftentimes, like, we are intimidated by that transition of being an adult, because that also kind of means all of your services or access to different things kind of changes. And I think one thing that I realized is that a lot of young people my age don't even realize that when you are in the child welfare system, like health insurance that you are offered, that still extends till 26. So even though I aged out of the system, that's still something that I have access to. And a lot of people either don't realize that, they don't renew like their health insurance cards, they don't even know that they could like change their HMO, like, and stuff like that. So like that's, I think those are like important things that to prepare them for. Also filing taxes, if they want to go to trade school or if they want to go to a 4-year accredited college, what does that look like? And what resources do they have offered to them, whether it's within the state or out of the state? I also know like a lot of people in my age group, when I was like sharing spaces with a lot of my peers, a lot of us just wanted like access to like uh a therapist, like somebody to actually talk to without like being reported to crisis. Not all everything is a crisis situation, but sometimes that's how the child welfare system responds, unfortunately. So you'll hear a lot about CSOC and when it comes to like perform care and those different things. So I think like it really comes with like having conversation with your youth. A lot of us are just looking for an outlet. And maybe, like I said, is maybe it's just they just need you to give them a piece of pen and paper. Like, we don't even have to talk this meeting, just like write out everything or like draw out everything. And then for the younger kids, and I know this from having a younger sibling who was significantly younger, she didn't understand what was going on. So for that population is like meeting them where they are and understanding like they might be internalizing things a lot differently because they've only known their previous life prior to care, and that was their normal, and they're not able to kind of step outside of it in terms of like being with a new family and what that looks like. So it does kind of vary, but those are some things that I will say that I've heard and I've experienced like overlapping.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy, for the question, and Tawanna for your response. And I'll just add that there is a program called Fostering Futures that National CASA offers, and a couple of members of our staff have undergone that training. We've offered it a couple times in the several years Connecticut CASA has been around, and I expect we'll offer that again. And that's specifically aimed at helping teenage youth who are preparing to age out of the system with their planning for education, health, uh, financial literacy and housing and a range of other things. So stay tuned for that. And there's also Sun Scholars here in Connecticut, which I mentioned. Probably most of you didn't hear that at the very beginning. That was started by a number of young people who themselves had been in foster care here in Connecticut. And it's particularly aimed at helping support former foster youth who are in college or preparing to go to college here in Connecticut. They have a contract with DCF and they're doing good work. So I would encourage you to look up Sun Scholars as well. I believe it stands for Support, Uplift, and Nurture, the Sun in Sun Scholars. Well, Tawanna, I think we are coming to an end, so I will again say many thanks, and we hope to see as many of you as possible a week from tonight when Tawanna returns with Judge Erica Tyndall for what should be another very good session.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.